Does it actually change the reality of what's happening at the school? Doubt it. I mean, does it even reflect the reality of what's happening at the school? Maybe, in a way.
Those Harvard grads are struggling.
Yeah, right. Hello and welcome to episode 502 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Nathan Fox. With me is Ben Olson. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. Bunch of stuff on the agenda today, Ben, but first thing is U.S. News rankings are out. Apparently, I didn't know this until just now. Thanks, Josh, for putting this together on very short notice. According to Above the Law, have you heard this, Ben?
No.
According to Above the Law, U.S. News published the updated rankings around 8 p.m. Eastern last night in two different places, each with different rankings.
Yikes.
At around 11 p.m. Eastern, they corrected the erroneous one and, made an official rankings.
Wow.
But for example,
Okay.
Cornell was listed at number 14 in the incorrect version, and in the official version, Cornell is listed at 18.
That is bizarre. You wonder why they would have, they even have two versions.
I could just imagine people super celebrating and then have the reality come crashing down.
Yeah. Sorry, that was fake news.
So we've got rankings here from 2024 to the changes in 2025. See any big changes on the list that you'd like to talk about?
Well, Harvard continues to drop, right? It's always been known as one of the top three: Harvard, Yale, Stanford.
Uh-huh.
And then it went to 4 or 5, I feel like. I thought it was 5 last year. But anyways, tied for 4 last year with UPenn and UVA. And this year it's ranked 6. So it's tied with Duke. But yeah, it's 2-point drop.
Yeah. These, the subtleties, it's just so ridiculous at the very top, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just absurd. Like last year, there was a 4-way tie for 4th, and then one school in 8th place, and then a 3-way tie for 9th. It's like it gives this impression of rigor or, scientific something that's just really not there. I mean, okay, yeah. So this year now there's a 2-way tie at the top between Stanford and Yale. That's the same as last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, there's a school 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then a 2-way tie for 6th, and then another 2-way tie for 8th. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just seems like I could just imagine them sort of like tweaking it to like massage it so that there's always something to talk about, but it's, like the vast majority of these schools just don't even really shuffle in and out of the top 14.
Yeah, I would be curious how, because obviously they have to take their numbers, their data that they're pulling in from all different sources, and they have to boil it down to one number. That's how you rank. So I am curious what numbers are going in to push Harvard down. What exactly is Harvard not doing well according to U.S. News? Of course, they could be like, yeah, we're not doing well in X, Y, or Z, but who gives a fuck? That doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
But U.S. News thinks it matters to some degree. And so I am curious what small thing they maybe are not doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything here about new methodology, so I don't really know what has changed, if anything. We knew that they made a big deal a couple of years ago when they changed the rankings somewhat and started considering things like employment outcomes as part of the ranking. We don't really know what happened. Chris, Demon team member Chris, posted this morning that they were very excited at Wash U in St. Louis,
Yeah,
Missouri.
I was just looking at that. They're now 14. So they must have been 16 before. They are hustling. So they're seeing the results of their hustle, I guess. So is Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
5-point up.
And it's really interesting also, right? This 4-way tie for 14th.
Mm-hmm.
So there's now 17 schools in the top 14. That's a good trivia question, you know. How
Yeah,
many
yeah.
schools are there in the top 14 countries in the top 14 law schools in the country? Well, yeah, it's actually 17. There's 2 additions this year to the top 14. Last year there were
Mhm,
15 schools in the top 14.
mhm.
This year there are 17 schools in the top 14 with the addition of Vanderbilt and Wash U. Oh wait,
Georgetown must be pissed.
because Georgetown, why? There's no change.
I
Oh,
feel
that
like they're
they're
the ones who came up with the T-14 concept, right? Why would you
oh,
end at T-14? And now they're like, what?
interesting. Yeah. Oh wait, did somebody actually drop out of the top 14? Because I see Vanderbilt, that's new. UT
UC
Austin is
is
new.
also, yeah. All right, let's figure this out. I see everybody here. Wait, is it Cornell? It's Cornell.
Cornell. Okay. Is that because of money, maybe? I mean, we have looked recently. Cornell is outrageously expensive, and maybe that had something to
Wait,
do
was
with it.
Cornell the one, or which school was it that U.S. News got mad at because they gave them bad data?
Oh, what the? Are you talking about something that happened years ago or something that
And
happened recently?
it was a year or two ago. Maybe a
Oh,
year ago.
are they
Maybe
getting
the
like
effects.
punished by U.S. News?
I have a feeling it was Cornell, but I can't remember now.
Huh. So, it's just sort of shuffling around mostly in the top 14, but I guess, yeah, okay. So, headline is Cornell is out of the top 14. It's not in the top 17/14, top 14 country
Whatever that
schools
means.
in the country. So, Cornell out, and we get big winners are UT Austin, Vanderbilt, and Wash U. Yeah. So, Chris said that they, at Wash U this morning, I guess, they bought like breakfast for the whole campus to celebrate Wash U's inclusion in the top 14. That's something that it has definitely seemed like they've been chasing it for a long time, right? Playing the scholarship game, recruiting people
Yeah,
like Chris. Chris isn't there, I don't think, if he's not getting a full ride.
that's right. Yeah, they've paid a lot of money, essentially. Well, they've given up a lot of potential revenue to try to get that ranking up. What are the schools who say that rankings don't matter, or you shouldn't worry about rankings, or it's a silly game?
What
Because
are the
obviously,
schools that say that?
yeah, I feel like we hear that every now and then, right? Deans come out and they're like, they just bitterly despise the U.S. News ranking system. Yet Wash U is celebrating and buying all of its students breakfast. I mean, clearly they've just embraced the game.
Well, I think you can tell who's going to be, this year. I bet UT Austin, Vanderbilt, Wash U. I bet they're pretty happy about the rankings.
Yeah,
I bet
yeah, yeah.
like UCLA, which now is for the first time I can recall, UCLA is a click above UC Berkeley. I've never seen
Oh,
that before.
yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, that's who knows. I mean, does it actually change the reality of what's happening at the school? Doubt it. I mean, does it even reflect the reality of what's happening at the school? Maybe in a way.
Those Harvard grads are struggling.
Yeah, right. Right. Uh all right. Well, anything more about the rankings other than this
No.
snafu? I suppose I should let me check. I always want to look to see how far the star has fallen of my alma mater. Do you do this?
No. I just know it was in the 20s when I went to GW.
Uh-huh.
Now it's not.
Yeah. UC Law San Francisco is now all the way down at 88th. I do anticipate, stay tuned because I'm sure that the UC Hastings community, it was Hastings when we were there. Now it's UC San Francisco. I'm sure that we will get a missive from the dean and chancellor Figman.
He's still dean and chancellor. He hasn't moved
And
on.
maybe he's not both, but he's still the guy. I mean, he uses that same photograph of him sitting there, smoldering into the camera. Um, that's in like every one of those. He gets so many emails with his picture.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure he'll have, plenty to say about how glorious the school actually is and how this doesn't reflect anything about the reality of the school. It was ranked like
until it starts going up, right? And then be like, hey, look it.
exactly.
We've done a lot of important work here, and it's reflected
Yeah,
in the
just don't hold
rankings.
your breath for it to start going back up. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Not based on what I've seen from that school since
What's
I was there
GW?
and since I graduated. Let's see. George Washington. Oh, by the way, I just was going to give an update on
Oh,
those
yeah.
numbers. When I was there in 2008 through 2011, the school was ranked like 35th or 40th in the country, and it's now all the way down at 88th in the country. Let's see. George Washington, 31st.
Okay, not as far as a drop as I had thought. It was in the 20s, low 20s, I think, when I was there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, that's it about the rankings. Most students really shouldn't be paying very much attention to the rankings. Instead, you should just be applying broadly and weighing the offers once they come in. It's a
Yep.
tragic mistake, and I think that's maybe the main way that people misuse these rankings is that they like use them to determine where they want to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, they just don't realize that these rankings change wildly over time. It won't be the same ranking when you graduate as it is when you start. And you don't know the price until you've applied for admission and gotten offers back. So it's silly, right? I mean, in a vacuum, it's just like one number. It's like, oh no, UCLA is one click better than UC Berkeley.
I wanted to ask you specifically about UCLA and Berkeley. How many students do you think, or applicants, are now second guessing their application to
Yeah.
Berkeley?
Well, and it's just insane.
It's a non-zero number, right? There's
yeah.
some people who are like, oh, maybe not Berkeley for me.
Oh, the people in Berkeley admissions office, I would imagine, are like afraid for their jobs today.
Yeah.
That's not good. The schools that lose ranking are it's like, oh, the prestige of the school is falling, in the minds of some people. I don't think that, the good news is really not that great for these schools because wait another 364 days and there'll be new rankings again.
Yeah.
But for the same reason, the bad news is not that bad for these schools. Sustained declines over time, like we've had at UC Hastings, that's probably pretty bad, though.
Yeah, something's not quite right.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about these two upcoming dates of interest?
Sure. So on Tuesday, April 22nd, you have the June LSAT registration deadline. We repeat this every time we talk about registration deadlines, but you take a look at your most recent practice tests. If the scores are something that you'd be happy with on your official test, then sign up for the June LSAT. If they are not, then don't worry about it.
Yeah, pretty much easy. If you're already registered, any advice for those folks?
Yeah, if you're already registered, then technically, well, actually, you can withdraw before the registration deadline, right, and get your money back.
You can reschedule for free, and you can kick it down the road as far as you want. I don't think you can just withdraw and get your money back, but I do think you'll get a partial refund, I believe.
Okay.
But you can, before the registration deadline, with no penalty, no additional fees, you can reschedule out as far as the test dates go. So if you're not registered, look at your practice test scores. If you're happy with them, if you would like to put that kind of a number on your permanent record, go ahead and register. If not, then don't. If you are already registered, it's the same analysis. I'm registered, but that doesn't mean I have to take it. I could always push that date down the road. And if you're 15 points away from your target score, that's probably what you should do.
Yeah.
Okay. One other thing that is of note, if you're listening to this on the day it airs, you've got just a couple days to show up for or register yourself for my free class. I'm doing a version of Double Black Diamond on Wednesday, April 16th. It's like in the early afternoon. Go to lsatdemon.com/free to register for the class. In addition to that free class, apparently Demon team member Stefan's going to be holding an Ask Me Anything on the LSAT Demon Discord. That's around 1 p.m. Eastern, so it's before the start of my class. And then there'll be an hour of questions in the Discord after the class. If you want to join our Discord, go to lsat.link/Discord. You will need a daemon account, though, a free daemon account in order to join our Discord. So lsatdemon.com/free for a free daemon account. lsat.link/Discord if you want to join the conversation on the Discord.
Those have been really popular from what I've read. So
yeah, it's been going great. I mean, thank you to all of the team members who have chipped in for the Discord. That's not something that Ben and I are actively involved in, but the community has, it's got some momentum. So thanks to all the amazing Demon staffers that have been working on the Discord.
Yeah, definitely.
Next item. I'll let you read it. It's from Imani. The subject is, will retaking the LSAT now be worth it later?
Probably. Let's see here. Hi, Ben and Nathan. I'm a 2-year Demon Premium student who decided to apply in late November. I have a 387 UGPA and a 160 LSAT. In parentheses, Imani writes, I know, not great, but it took 2 years to get that score. Okay. 160 isn't terrible. I applied broadly and tempered my expectations, but it's been rough. 8 waitlists, 3 rejections, 2 admits, both with low scholarship offers and low portability. Waitlists include Harvard Law School, Chicago, Michigan, OSU, GW. I'm open to retaking the LSAT, but unsure of the goal. Retake in June to improve waitlist odds or reapply next year.
So we're looking at 13 applications. I might have recommended a bit of a broader application than that.
Yeah, especially when you're applying to Harvard with a 160.
Yeah, we always say at least 10 schools. This was also, by the way, Imani didn't apply until late November. Right? So a little bit late, Imani. Not quite as good, as broad as I might like. 3.87 and a 160, that's extremely long shot for Harvard. It's very long shot for Chicago. It's long shot for Michigan. I mean, I just question how Imani chose the schools here.
Well, there's nothing wrong with taking these long shots, but you can't count them towards your 10 applications. Because in a sense, you're pretty much gonna not get a good offer from those schools. That's pretty much guaranteed. So then you need to apply to 10 other schools that you are likely to get very good scholarships offers from. So then you can actually benefit from applying broadly.
I mean, it's pretty much a waste of your time to apply to Harvard with a 3.87 and a 160.
It is a waste of time. I wouldn't care if anyone tried. I mean, hey, he got waitlisted.
Yeah. It's just that there don't seem to be enough schools that are like in the wheelhouse, right?
In the range, yeah.
I'm going to go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships, and I'm going to put in that 3.87 and 160. The kinds of schools that I mean, it's showing scholarship unlikely in pretty much the entire top 14. Which, also might just mean you're just not really likely to get admitted to any of those schools either. The first reasonable scholarship that starts popping up at all is Wash U. But even that's not full. I think with those numbers, you got to be looking down in like the schools ranked like 50s, 60s. Penn State University Park is the first full tuition offer. Nebraska, Duquesne in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, Mercer. I mean, there are lots of schools that seem like they would be willing to make good offers. It seems like Imani might have just like kind of swung for the fences a little bit. Okay.
I agree.
Anyway.
Yeah. Imani continues, many with better stats were also waitlisted at these schools. Would a higher LSAT even move the needle with waitlists if there are better applicants? I'm not super debt averse if the ROI is strong.
Okay, that's dumb. That's dumb. The ROI is not strong. It's just not, because the prices are too high.
I could see the ROI being high on like Harvard.
Well, or the ROI is high if you're like 1,000% going into big law, and you know that the school you're going to go to is going to get you into big law.
And you're a killer going into that school, which you're not going to be, Imani. You're going to be at the bottom of the class for a lot of these schools.
3.87, 160 is just by it. It's like on the numbers, you're a long shot for big law.
Yep.
Okay. Those are just not the types of numbers that of people who tend to really thrive in big law.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, it's like almost impossible for the ROI to work out when the schools are charging $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year tuition.
Yeah.
Plus fees, plus books, plus living expenses, plus 3 years of lost salary, plus interest. You know, you don't just it's just not gonna be the case that the ROI of debt is gonna be there.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be, I think, a bit more realistic here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you continue.
No, I agree. I work full time and lost income cutting work hours to study. Lawyers in my life say to take the low tier offer due to current attacks on DEI and fears schools will admit fewer minorities next cycle.
What?
It all feels like a loss to me. What would you do? Thanks in advance for your advice. I would definitely not make decisions based on what you think is going to happen with DEI.
No. I would not make decisions based on what those lawyers in your life are advising you. Those don't seem like people who know what's going on in the law school admission game.
No, they don't understand that you overshot and therefore you have, low
You
scholarship
applied late.
offers.
You didn't apply broadly enough. You applied to schools that were out of your range. You applied without an LSAT that was good enough. And now you're waitlisted everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You should not retake the LSAT with hopes of getting in off the wait list. That would be a terrible strategy. If you get in off the wait list, there's just pretty much no way you're going to get a reasonable price.
Mm-hmm.
Getting it, I mean, they do wait lists to see who will beg to get in to pay full price.
Yeah.
And if you do that, Imani, we have failed you.
I mean, the only exception I see here is potentially Harvard, because then you could get. Does Chicago offer income based, or not income based, but like financially based?
The only 3
aid?
schools on the estimator right now that are listed as need based are Harvard, Stanford, and Yale. I'm not sure if those policies have changed at Chicago yet. That does seem to be the trend at the very top of the top, that they aren't playing those scholarship games anymore, and they're only giving need-based scholarships. You know, that could change also as Harvard slides out of the top 3 or 4 or 5. You know, I could see Harvard being like, oh, actually, maybe we do want to be more prestigious. Maybe we do want to start offering scholarships to get people to choose us instead of everybody walking away to go to Chicago or Duke or whatever for a generous scholarship.
It's true. It's a hard ask, right? Basically, Harvard is saying, we'll give you a discount if you're financially eligible for it. If you're not, you got to pay full price, regardless of whether you have a stunning application. They're losing the ability to do that. Unless you can get a good deal at those schools, financially, it's just going to be very tough. The ROI is going to be very tough.
Okay, so Imani asked, what would you do?
Yeah, I would try to get a higher LSAT score. If you can't do that, you can still apply with a 387 and a 160. You just have to apply lower and more broadly so you can get actual good offers. And then go for
earlier
free.
In the cycle.
Yep.
And if you haven't used all 5 of your LSAT attempts, I really encourage you to go back to the lab on that. Ask more questions, like you've been a Demon Premium subscriber. That's awesome. How often do you use the ask button? That can be a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
To just ask for help on specific questions that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
I would withdraw all offers. If you're asking me what I would do, withdraw all applications.
Yeah.
That's step 1.
Mm-hmm.
Burn the boats. You're not going to law school this cycle. Burn the boats. Withdraw all applications so that you don't get some terrible offer and take it. I mean, like the lawyers in Imani's life are advising her, oh yeah, just take a bad offer from a bad school because of unspecified DEI fears. The
That's
fuck?
really
She
bad.
already got terrible offers.
Yeah.
What? It
Yeah.
can't get worse than that. The only way it can get worse than that is if you take one of those offers.
Yep.
So burn the boats, withdraw all of your applications, and plan on applying in September this year.
Mm-hmm.
This year, when you apply, hopefully you've got a better LSAT. Even a point or two can make a big difference. Apply broadly and more sensibly to schools that are solidly within your range. I think you're pretty wildly overshooting here with the likes of Harvard and Chicago. You know, I mean, Chicago had a median LSAT of 173. Chicago's 25th percentile LSAT is 169. 9 points below the 25th percentile at that school. You don't want to get in there. That'd be brutal.
That's a rough road. Yeah.
That's super rough. You're like, you could be competing with people who absolutely crushed you on the LSAT. That's not what you want to do. You want to play in, you know, a league that is suited to your skills. You want to go somewhere that you can thrive. And there's plenty of law schools that you could thrive at. Those schools also will charge you a reasonable price. So apply to 20 schools next time, but apply to many more schools that are ranked 60th, 80th, 100th in the country.
Yeah.
Any more advice for Imani?
No, I think we've covered it.
Yeah. Maybe take another look at your personal statement as well. If you think that your offers, like if you think you should have gotten better offers than you actually did, it's very likely that you're saying something wrong in one of your essays. Okay. Next one.
Yeah, let's go to pearls versus turds. This is where we take advice and we decide whether it's good or bad or okay. The
Nice.
scoreboard right now is 30 pearls, 81 turds, 27 ties. This one comes from Jamin. The subject is reading comp strategy.
I was going to say Jamin. 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 I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be okay.
I'm not good at names, so.
Well, I mean, I'm speculating. Okay, so reading comp strategy. Hi, Ben and Nate. I wanted to share a strategy I've been using on my reading comp passages. I've been struggling with reading comp passages recently. I was consistently missing 1 to 3 questions every passage. Yeah, that's bad because, you know, the demon understanding heuristic would indicate that you were also not understanding another 1 to 3 questions per passage, but getting them right? Every one that you miss means there's another one that you maybe got right without really understanding.
Yeah.
So 1 to 3 questions per passage wrong means like 2 to 6 questions per passage that you didn't really get.
And that's potentially all the questions for
yeah,
that
so
one
that's
passage.
pretty bad understanding, right, of the
Yeah.
questions. Okay. Jameen says, thinking back to my freelance reporting days, I remembered that my careful selection of adjectives and adverbs were sometimes my only vehicle for offering any commentary. Ooh, I like this. I think this is on the right track. Using this knowledge, I highlighted, all adjectives and adverbs in passages as I read. Now I'm consistently getting 0 questions wrong, and I'm feeling that I understand the passages much better. LSAT writers can use convoluted, dense writing to make their topics difficult to grasp, but their adjectives and adverbs can really tip their hand. Regards, Jameen. So I'm going to provisionally state my position on this.
Okay.
Which is that I could interpret it as a pearl.
Okay.
If we forget about the highlighting aspect of what Jameen is saying, if the tip is just adjectives and adverbs can really tip the hand of a reading comp author, I think that's solid gold-plated pearl.
Yeah, they absolutely can. So I've been thinking about what Jameen said about her work. I remember that my careful selection of adjectives and adverbs were sometimes my only vehicle for offering any commentary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can you elaborate on that?
Well, you're going to state the facts, right?
So you inject some...
Well, you throw in a tragically at the beginning of the sentence.
Yeah.
I mean...
That's your way of commenting on it without commenting.
Yeah, like a lot. And
Yeah.
in the reading comp passages, I think it is very common that they will throw in an unfortunately, or they'll throw in a fittingly or interestingly,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, sure.
So
There's all sorts of regretfully, you know,
regretfully, sadly, when they don't all have to have
surprisingly.
ly. Sure,
Yeah.
surprisingly, absolutely, yeah.
Hmm.
I think it's really common on LSAT reading comp that there's just one word that shows you what the author feels about the issue.
Hmm.
And so I really like this idea, Jameen. I don't think you need to highlight them, but I'm glad that you're noticing them.
Hmm.
And that's our tip about highlighting generally.
Yeah.
It's great to pay attention to stuff. It's great to notice because the words really matter.
Hmm.
One word can matter a lot. Highlighting them, don't really, I feel like that's a waste of time. But mentally highlighting them, noticing that they said that this is interesting or that this is tragic or that this is fortunate, of course that matters a lot.
No, it does matter. And what's really going on there is that you're noticing the word and then seeing what it says about that sentence. That's why you don't
Yeah.
need to highlight it, because you're taking that word and then using it to better understand what that sentence is trying to convey. And once you understand what that sentence is trying to convey, then you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Highlighting it for future reference actually misses the point. That's
Yeah.
worse. All you'd see is the word sadly. What does that mean?
Yeah. What's sad? What's fortunate? What's,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to ignore the highlighting part, but to the extent that this tip is, I cut down my mistakes to 0 by paying attention to adverbs and adjectives that the author chooses.
Hmm.
I think that's an excellent tip for reading comp strategy.
Cool.
Have I
Yeah, that
talked you
sounds.
into a pearl?
That's yeah. We edit it and then we make it a pearl.
Well, the scoreboard now is, I mean, because, much of the advice that we get from the internet or from
Yeah.
people thinking like, hey, how about this strategy? Most of it is terrible. Most of it
Hmm.
can't even be worked into a good idea.
Hmm.
The scoreboard in the 10-year history of thinking LSAT is now 31 pearls, 81 turds, and 27 ties.
Mm.
If you have a pearl versus turd candidate, please let us know at thinkinglsat.com or find us on the socials at LSAT Demon. Next item.
Yeah. Next item.
This one's from Connor. Subject is reviewing RC questions from timed sections.
Okay, that's important. Hope you're doing that. Connor says, "Hi Ben and Nathan. Thank you for simplifying the LSAT. I've been using LSAT Demon for roughly an hour a day for the past month and have improved 10 points since my 140 diagnostic. I have no plans of taking the official test until my practice test scores are in the high 160s or low 170s.
Great.
When doing time sections, I am currently only doing 2 passages in the 35 minutes. My accuracy is 12 out of 13 or 92%. After the time is up, what do you recommend I do with the remaining 2 passages that I skipped? Should I complete and review them after time is up before reviewing the questions I missed?"
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise you're just kind of wasting those passages.
I like
So,
this in part because Connor, sorry to cut you off.
no.
I like this because Connor is doing what Connor should be doing in the 2 passages in the 35 minutes. He's taking his time. He's
Yep.
bringing his accuracy up to 92%, hopefully 100% on some occasions.
Yep.
And so it seems like you're in a good position to go ahead and do those 2 remaining passages. If you're just absolutely bombing it, then you just need to reset entirely and
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe not worry about all this stuff. Let's just, okay, why did you do so many questions? Why don't you slow down? Can you make sense of the first passage? Let's get that figured out and then go from there. But because Connor is doing that, yeah, keep doing your practice as you're doing. Just do it after the timer's over.
Yeah. Connor's basically making sense of 2 passages. Don't let that accuracy slip, Connor. We want to see 13 out of 13, ideally. We don't want to see that slip to 10 or 11 out of 13. It would get pretty bad pretty fast, actually, if you start missing any more questions than you're currently missing. So stay committed to the accuracy. And then, yeah, when time's up, do those other two passages at your leisure, no rushing, just kind of work your way through them, see if you can solve those questions. And then, as always, thoroughly review your mistakes. Of course, same advice goes for logical reasoning. If Connor were asking that question, I'm not sure he is, but if Connor was like, "Hey, I'm doing 15 questions on LR with high accuracy. What should I do on questions 16 through 25?" Yeah, don't waste those questions. Go ahead and work through them,
Yeah.
solve them, and then do all of your review. The review should probably take longer than it takes to do the section, by the way, especially when you're at this level, right? I mean, Connor missed one out of the two passages he did. Then he's got two full passages to do and review any mistakes or any questions that he struggles with. Excellent. I'm optimistic. I like Connor's chances.
Yeah. Keep us posted, Connor. Give us an update. All right. Next item, Nate.
Yeah.
What's the deal with, is it Pace?
Pace Law School?
Yeah.
I don't know. But apparently it's been in the news. This comes to us from Above the Law.
Okay.
Apparently there's a recent article called "The Curious Case of Kash Patel's Law School Education," in which Above the Law notes that the new FBI director omits his law school from his official government bio. You want to read this paragraph?
Sure. It says, a native of New York, Mr. Patel completed his undergraduate studies at the University of Richmond before returning to New York to earn his law degree, along with a certificate in international law from University College London Faculty of Laws in the United Kingdom. Kash is a lifelong ice hockey player, coach, and fan.
That's the bio. So from the article on Above the Law, they say, curiously, the institution where he got his JD is left to a mere geographic indicator. Are we supposed to think he went to New York University, the elite but notedly liberal school? And Columbia law is very much persona non grata in this administration, so that's probably not what he's hoping people will assume. Perhaps we should think about New York as the state, not the city, and consider Cornell. There are 15 ABA accredited law schools in New York State. That's a lot of possibilities left to the imagination in this geographic scavenger hunt. But Patel actually went to Pace Law School, ranked 136 out of 196 law schools, which was probably your 14th out of 15, remember, guesses. So I guess that what that means is that it's the 14th ranked law school in New York State.
Probably, yeah.
Out of 15.
This is the 14th one you'd think of. You wouldn't think of Pace. You'd think of a bunch of others before you think of Pace. Yeah.
That's funny. There's actually, I see two more. There's CUNY and Turo that are in New York. So I don't know where they got the 15. Maybe one of those would never have been one of the guesses. I don't know what they mean by that. All right. Well, anyway, should we figure out what the deal is with Pace Law School?
Yeah, let's do it.
A school that the new FBI director does not want on their bio.
Fair enough. Let's go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships.
Sure.
And if you do that, and
yeah, I mean, you can just search for New York, right? And then you can see the
New
list
York or Pace,
of all New York schools.
Yeah.
And you will see, at the top, you got your Columbia, your NYU, your Cornell, Fordham, Cardozo, St. John's. Those are all in the top 100. Maybe Kash Patel is hoping that we'll think that those were the alma mater in question. Nope, but it's not those. Nor is it Buffalo, Brooklyn, Albany, Syracuse, New York Law School, Hofstra. Oh, now we get there. Pace.
Okay. So if we go over to the right, there's a PDF. You can click on that and you can get the 509.
Yep.
What pops out?
Well, I'm going to click on the tuition roll call first so that I can see a graphical image of the finances, because you just can't say what the deal is with any law school without knowing some basic information. I want median LSAT, median GPA, and I want who pays for this thing. And it looks to me like 7% of the school pays full price.
Okay.
Full price is 55,000,
Mm-hmm.
56,000, counting the fees.
Okay. So that's below the average. In the US, 19% of students pay full price, but at
So this
Pace,
is a school
only
that
7. Mm-hmm.
they do heavy discounting, in other words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even heavier than the average law school.
Yeah.
Pace discounts a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of shocking when you see the 153 LSAT and the 3.5 GPA.
They
I
still got
mean,
to pay people to come there.
they still have to pay people to come, even to get numbers that are that low. They still have to pay people to go there. 1% of the students are there on a possible stipend. 7% are getting a full tuition scholarship. 44% are getting more than half, but not every dollar of fees and tuition.
Mm-hmm.
So, which could include every dollar of tuition.
Yeah.
90% plus of people at this school get grants. The median of those grants is 29,000. So yeah, the the typical person at this school is paying something less than half of the nominal tuition.
Okay.
75th percentile grant is 37,500. So it could be that 25% of the class is getting virtually everything paid for at this school.
Mm-hmm.
Conditional scholarships, we probably need to talk about. That's on the same page of the 509.
Yeah, let's do it since we're here. Okay. They do a decent amount of conditional scholarships.
Yep.
In 2023 and 2024, 278 students matriculated or joined the school with conditional scholarships, and then 101 of those were eliminated. So,
yeah,
not quite half, but more than a third.
That's okay. I mean, I always say this, that if I were one of those people, you get your scholarship reduced or eliminated because your grades weren't good enough in your first year.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if you're at a school like this and they're taking away your grant or scholarship, it's not going well.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a clear sign that you should just walk away. From that perspective, I don't think that conditional scholarships are a big deal because it's just a message. You just learn. You go there, you do your best. If you can't keep the scholarship, sorry. Look, you're in the bottom third of scholarship applicants at this school.
Yeah.
It's not going well for you, and you probably should just drop out.
Yep. Okay, so you mentioned that the 50th percentile LSAT was 153. The 50th percentile UGPA or undergraduate GPA is 3.51. Okay, and then 3 points above that LSAT is the 75th percentile, 156. 3 points below is a 150. So that's kind of a more even spread. A lot of times we see the 50th and the 75th percentile a lot closer.
Because a lot of times they have to like bottom feed, right? So you see the 50th and the 75th are really close, and then at the bottom it's just like, shit, we just took anybody we could take. The deal with this school is that they're already taking anybody they could take. I mean, this school admits 52% of people who apply. I mean, that's a super high acceptance rate.
Yeah.
When you realize like the average quality of law school applications at bottom feeder kinds of schools like this is so bad, and they still are accepting more than half of those applications. Of course, people do then turn around and reject them at a very heavy rate. They only have an enrollment rate of 29% of admitted applicants actually go there. 71% look at the offer and go, nah, I got better offers, either for another law school or potentially no law school at all. They just look at it and they go, no way I'm paying that price to go to this school. That's a full 71% of their admitted applicants turn around and reject them. So it's not a prestigious thing, right? Yeah. They'll try to sell it to you though as a very prestigious thing, like a totally naive applicant in White Plains, New York, only applies to one school, and this school is like, yeah, I think you've got a really good shot to get in here. I think, boy, it'd be so great for you.
Yeah.
and they get stars in their eyes and they just apply, squeak in with a 151 and a 3.2 undergraduate GPA.
They must get giddy at these schools when someone just never even like raises the question of cost.
Which I bet the vast majority of applicants don't. I don't think, I think majority of applicants come from this mindset of, it's a privilege to go to school. I'd be lucky to get in. I wonder if I can get in. Student debt is good debt. I'll just apply and no problem, you know? Like I'll just apply, and if whatever the cost is, I mean, that's just student loans. Everybody's got student loans. It's just part of doing business.
That's the cost of doing business. I got to get a good job and then I'll pay it back.
I mean, you know, maybe my mom and dad did student loans, or maybe my mom and dad didn't even go to college, but they're encouraging me and saying like, oh, well, that's no big deal. It's student loans. You know, you'll be fine. You'll pay it back. You're going to be a lawyer.
It'll be worth it.
You're not going to have any problem paying that back. You're going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of lawyers does this school turn out?
I suspect not very well paid ones. But just to finish that thought, I was thinking about when they don't offer a scholarship to somebody, they just say, hey, you've been admitted. And the person turns around and puts down the deposit with no questions. That's got to be a weird experience from the school side. They're like, wow, this person just agreed to give us $52,000 a year.
I don't think it's weird at all. I think it's how they do business.
No, it's weird because it's unusual. It's like, it's actually unusual from their perspective. Most people don't pay full price, right? Only 7% of the students are paying full price.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. But like, they do have people every year at every school who pay full price.
But they must be, I mean, I imagine, especially the more we talk about this, the more they're anticipating the people that they accept to turn around and, hey, talk to them about money. Say, hey, what's going on here? Is this all the scholarship you can give me?
Yeah.
Like immediately, you know, you're dealing with someone who understands that price is a factor. They just must be like blown away by people who don't even care. Well, no, it's not that they don't care. It's that they don't think it's even something that can be discussed.
Yeah.
And so then they're giddy about that.
I'm waiting for more schools to do what Harvard, Stanford, Yale did with, you know, because they have basically gotten rid of merit-based scholarships. They're just like, no, we do need-based scholarships.
Yep.
The tuition is the tuition, and we do discounting, but we do it on the basis of need.
Yeah. Yep.
And I wish every school would do that. I have a feeling that it's going to be schools at the very top who are so prestigious that they're never going to have a problem attracting applicants, like Harvard, Stanford, Yale. Or, I don't know, maybe some school down in the bottom.
Like, it doesn't matter. They don't need to, they're not competing to get up in the ranking.
Like this school.
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? It's just a joke. You know?
Just cut the price down to $20,000 and
exactly.
Just say, hey,
start advertising yourself as
an affordable option.
The most affordable option.
Yeah.
Like, where is Costco in this game?
Yeah.
There's no Costco, right? I love Costco because you just don't have to really think about price. If you want that item, if you can afford it, you know you're getting a good price on it, you just buy it. And that's because Costco like aggressively reduces their own margins so that their members will trust them. Well, I want some law school to do that. I want some law school to be like, yeah, our bad. We were out there for years, you know, fishing, offering these cheesy scholarships that are, you know, like we have to take away a third of them every year. And that creates a bunch of drama. There also must be a bunch of drama at these schools where like some people are paying full price and some people are getting paid to go there.
And they find out, yeah.
Surely that causes conflict from time to time. And anyway, you know, if the school is just like, hey, look, our median grant amount is more than half our tuition, and 91% of our student population gets grants. So more than half of the people are paying less than half price to go here. Let's just be realistic. Let's start advertising that our tuition is only $17,500 a year.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, in fact. But instead, they do this thing of like, oh, no, the tuition is 40 whatever thousand.
Well, here, 55.
And then give everybody these cheesy scholarship discounts. It would be really cool if some school was just like, okay, we're going to try to do something differently. We're going to do like value pricing. Everybody pays the same.
Mhm.
Fairness. Imagine that. We'll just make the system fair. Because instead it's this weird calculus of like, okay, we're going to admit 5 times as many people as we actually need
Mhm.
to go here. And then we're going to like make bad offers to tons of those people and hopefully they'll accept.
Yep.
But then in order to keep the medians up high enough that US News doesn't totally kill us in the rankings, we're going to offer big discounts to people who have competitive LSAT, competitive GPA.
Mhm.
And then they end up admitting a weird class where it's like, if they didn't give enough scholarship to the higher LSAT, higher GPA people, those people walk. At the same time, they probably have to give scholarships to people that they wouldn't have had to give scholarships to if they hadn't even brought it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Because the way it normally works is they make the first offer. So they're out there like giving scholarship offers unsolicited to people.
Mhm.
Well, you might have been able to, they could have had the best of both worlds potentially, right? They could have had somebody with high LSAT, high GPA and wanted to pay full price.
Yeah. I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking about it though. As long as other schools do it, right? You're killing what the economists talk about.
There is certainly a like tragedy of the commons here. It would be hard to be a single actor, that chose not to play this game. So that's the crazy irony about what we do, is that we hate this system and we never stop talking about it. And we really wish that there would just be transparent pricing for JDs. But the more we talk about it, the more our listeners and students want to go get scholarships, because they should. They should take advantage of the game
I mean, you
the way
shouldn't do
it's
it any other
actually
way
played.
right
Yeah.
now. If you want to go to law school right now, you shouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah,
But
because you're getting ripped off if you voluntarily pay tuition when you don't have to. Yeah, you're just taking the short end of the stick on purpose.
yeah, we've said this 100 different ways, but if you look at the system as a whole, it's fundamentally funding itself off of the ignorance of at least half, maybe half the applicants.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And those people tend to be like first generation, no lawyers in the family, poorer, just lower socioeconomic status in all ways.
Mm-hmm.
And they just borrow tuition. They pay more for less. They pay more to go to these schools and have worse outcomes.
Yep.
And that's why the ROI isn't there.
Yeah.
If you want to go back to the top of the show and Imani's email,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just don't think you can pay full price at a school like this and have it be positive ROI.
Yeah.
How could it? You're going to graduate with $200,000, $250,000 of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's look at the job outcomes.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is a matter of public record. 22 out of 252 students landed in big law or federal clerkships.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And one FBI director. But that wasn't directly out of, I'm sure there were many, many intermediate steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 8.7% of the students are going to go to big law or federal clerkship. That number is extremely close to their number of full rides.
Yeah.
So it's going to work out great for the people who are there with higher LSAT, higher GPA. They're going to become real lawyers. The people with lower LSAT, lower GPA, are they even becoming lawyers?
Let's see here. We have, 11. No. Yeah, 10 people who are unemployed. How many require JD Advantage? 20 people are going into a JD Advantage role, which is not JD required. Another 8. No, actually another 11. So 31 are not going into a bar required job.
Yeah. It looks like roughly 80% are going into a bar admission required job.
Mm-hmm.
But again, those numbers are very low for firms of 250 or more lawyers. And there's only 3 out of 252 going into a federal clerkship. The rest of them are landing in, small firms and government jobs,
Hmm.
which is totally predictable. And it's just not the types of jobs that are going to be paying you even six figures
Yeah.
on graduation. So you're going to forego 3 years worth of earning potential. You're going to borrow $250,000 or more while you're there. You're going to start racking up interest. And then you're going to come out and you're going to be making, $70,000 a year. There's just not the ROI. It can't work out. The math just doesn't work out.
Nope.
What is this about alternative financing?
Says, okay, it looks like there's a page full of details for all the forms you need to fill out in order to take out private loans. Included on this page is this little excerpt. It says, private education loans are credit-based loans borrowed by the student. It is highly recommended that the student applies with a cosigner to increase their chance of approval and to receive a better interest rate. Oof.
Because we don't want just you on the hook for this. We want your friends and family on the hook. What they're saying there is we charge so much that you're not even going to be able to get federal loan funding to cover
Ugh,
it.
that is
So you're going to have to additionally take on private loans, which are going to be like credit card loans at very high rates of interest potentially.
Look at this email here from Demon student Brittany. Do you want to read it?
Sure. It says, I am considering PACE over other New York based schools because I'm interested in their environmental program. Ugh. Is that a good way to differentiate between several lower ranked schools?
No.
And then, sure enough, they are ranked number 1 by US News for environmental law programs.
Never look at these rankings. They're a distraction, not only for lower ranked schools, but for all schools.
They are, it's 100% for US News to like sell bullshit. How the rankings were calculated. Law school specialty rankings, such as clinical training, tax law, and healthcare law, and environmental law, presumably, are based solely on peer assessment surveys administered to law school faculty who teach in that specialty area. In summer of 2024, law schools provided U.S. News with the names of law school faculty members who teach in each specialty area. U.S. News conducted peer assessment surveys for law school specialty rankings. Faculty members who teach in each specialty area rated the other law schools in that specialty on a 5-point scale. Those unfamiliar with a particular school's programs were asked to select don't know. Responses of don't know counted neither for nor against a school. Scores for each school were determined by computing a trimmed mean, so that eliminates the two highest and two lowest 1 to 5 ratings from all respondents. All programs that receive 10 or more ratings are numerically ranked in descending order from highest to lowest based on their average peer assessment scores in their specialty area. Schools receiving less than 10 ratings in a specialty aren't listed in that specialty ranking. So there were 189 schools ranked for environmental law. Somehow, PACE comes out with a peer assessment score of 4.4. So this is solely just the opinions of law professors who responded to the survey.
Why the hell did they waste time responding to the survey? Hoping to get their school to go up?
I mean, yeah.
But then what? You just vote for your school on all these issues and then it all washes out? Like, it doesn't make sense.
And it's hilarious because their overall peer assessment score out of 5 is a 2.1. That's not good. 1 to 5 ranking. This is just overall like, hey, what do you think about Pace University? 2.1.
Wow.
But when asked, okay, in the specialty area of environmental law, asking only environmental law professors, what do you think of PACE? My guess is that there is like one prominent environmental law professor who does research at PACE. And because of that, there's like this reputation of like, oh yeah, no, aren't they known for environmental law? Yeah. And they put 4 or 5 on the survey. I agree with you, Ben. I do not think anyone should look at these specialty rankings at all. I just think that they're completely a scam.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that would be interesting to know is how dramatically those change over time.
Hmm.
Like if they were always ranked number one, that could be really interesting.
Like, why does that, or is it just self-fulfilling, right? Because people look at these rankings and then, oh, I've seen PACE as number one before. I think it
The
is number
financial
one.
aid director at this school, by the way, would you like to know her name?
Yes.
Adriana Pace.
Okay. Interesting.
Coincidence? Or is this like a family-run business? I mean, it is a private law school.
Yeah.
Okay. They offer several alternate degrees along with the JD program. Most schools do this. So they do have a dual JD LLM program. Oh, in environmental law, in which they can earn the LLM degree in as little as one additional semester. That's probably why they're up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
In the ranking, it's like, oh yeah, well they do have this program, and then because they have that program, it gets out there in the ether that like they're known, right? They're known for environmental law, just because they have this program. All you got to do is one extra semester, and you can get the LLM.
You can pay us more money.
I just don't know what this would qualify you to do. Like, who's going to give you a job?
You can now go fight for the environment or against the environment. Which is it going to be?
They also offer an SJD in environmental law, Doctor of Juridical Science. It's a graduate research degree intended to prepare legal scholars to research, public, and teach in the field of environmental law.
The only thing you can do in environmental law is teach other students about environmental law.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, because like, what's the point of getting that LLM or any other degree? They're sort of just acknowledging like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, you're not going to like practice law.
The earth doesn't pay you to protect itself, unfortunately.
No. Okay. Last fun fact I think that I want to cover here is that Kash Patel is not the only alum from PACE who is in the Trump administration. Apparently, RFK Jr. earned an LLM in environmental law from PACE and later taught at PACE in the environment program.
Oh, that's what it was in its intended purpose.
So, yeah, I guess. Are you allowed to go there if you're vaccinated for measles, or do they prohibit you from going?
You vaccinated fool. Get out of here.
All right. That's everything I ever wanted to know and more about PACE Law School. Please do not, who was that demon student, Brittany? Do not think that that is the type of school that is going to give you the type of JD that, like, going there because environmental law. I mean, that just seems insane.
Yeah.
Time for word of the week?
Yeah, let's do it. This is coming from Demon team member Chris. He's quoting a case, specifically United States versus Krizek?
Krizek? Sure.
Krizek. Apparently it was from 1997. Here's the sentence. Read it. Okay, you got it. Yep.
If the reckless disregard standard served merely as a substitute for willful misconduct to prevent the defendant from, quote, deliberately binding himself to the consequences of his tortious action, Section B3 would be redundant since Section B2 already covers such Struthious conduct. The word of the week is Struthious. It's also really worth pointing out here. This is like typical language that you would see in a court opinion. Right. So like students often are like, oh, what, the LSAT?
Yeah.
It's not like that in real life. Yeah, no, it's way worse than the LSAT in real life. Like reading actual statutes or reading court opinions. I mean, the reason why the reading comprehension and the logical reasoning, you know, the reading part of the logical reasoning, the reason why it's a stringent test of your English abilities is because of the field you're going into. It's like perfectly geared toward what you're going to try to get yourself into for the rest of your life. Look at this sentence. I mean, part of this sentence, by the way, is redacted, right? We have an ellipsis here.
Yeah, so it's even
in the
longer.
beginning. So the sentence was longer than this, but it's got a section in the middle set off with M dashes. It's got a referral to section B3 of something we haven't read and a referral to section B2 of something we haven't read. And it's got a word Struthious in there. Not to mention tortious was in there, which must be related to torts.
Yep.
You want to read the sentence again, maybe one more time and try to break it down?
Sure. So if the reckless disregard standard. So, okay, so there's some standard that has to do with recklessly disregarding something. Maybe you're being reckless and disregarding some safety measure or some duty that you might have to someone who's walking by you. You're just not paying attention. Yeah.
Pull out of your driveway without looking at the sidewalk or whatever.
Yep.
So tear out into the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Maybe that's reckless disregard for kids who might be going by on bicycles.
Yep. So if that standard served merely or only as a substitute for willful misconduct. Yeah, so willful misconduct sounds different to me than reckless disregard. Willful misconduct sounds like you're intentionally trying to hurt somebody or do something wrong. So
but if it did, if the reckless disregard standard did serve merely as a substitute for willful misconduct,
which is, and then we get a definition here, to prevent the defendant from deliberately blinding himself to the consequences of his tortuous, how did you say that?
Tortious, I would say.
Tortious action.
Maybe it's tortuous, but yeah. I mean, doing a tort. And I think when I read it the first time, I said binding, but it really was blinding.
Yeah, so not seeing. Okay.
Okay.
Section B3. So if the reckless disregard standard was a substitute, was just a substitute for willful misconduct, then section B3 would be redundant since section B2 already covers such Struthious conduct.
Yeah. So I wanted to point out that, there's also the conditional here that you have to unwrap.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot going on here. And as an LSAT reader, you have to, because this is what you're going to have to do in law school. This is what you're going to have to do in legal practice. You're going to have to really deal with the meaning of this sentence.
Yeah.
I want to go back to our Pearls versus Turds, which was from Jameen. Thank you, Jameen. Talking about the importance of adjectives and adverbs.
Yeah.
The merely at the beginning here helps, I think, understand what their intention is.
Yeah.
They say, if the reckless disregard standard served merely as a substitute, then section B3 would be redundant. And the merely kind of, you see how it sort of colors it a little bit, right? It sort of suggests that that's not the case.
That it's not merely a substitute, that it's doing something in addition to whatever willful misconduct is doing, which makes a lot of sense to me. It seems broader. It seems like it's going to cover more conduct than just willful misconduct. Yeah,
their main point seems to be that the reckless disregard standard is not just a substitute for willful misconduct. Their rationale for that is that if it were merely a substitute for willful misconduct, then section 3 would be redundant since section B2 already covers such conduct, such Struthious conduct. And what kind of conduct were we talking about?
We're talking about tortious conduct.
Yeah, willful misconduct.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It can't be just a substitute for willful misconduct, because then section B3 would be redundant because section B2 already covers such Struthious willful misconduct. You want to take a guess at what you think by the way, had you ever heard Struthious before this segment?
No, I've never heard this word before.
Me either.
Struthious. I mean, given that it seems to be replacing willful misconduct, it could be focusing on the willful, it could be focusing on the misconduct. It could be focusing on both, but I think it's fundamentally it's going to be negative, bad conduct.
Good. Yeah, I was going to say, if you just do a rough thumbs up, thumbs down, It's like something bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to be talking about something bad, potentially willful misconduct.
Okay, let's pull it open. Struthious, of or relating to or resembling the ostrich or related retite birds.
Wow. Wow.
Huh?
Okay. And why the ostrich, Ben? What's the
They
ostrich
put their
known
head in
for?
the sand.
They put their head in the sand.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
So-
this person was really having an artsy day.
If the reckless disregard standard served merely as a substitute for willful misconduct, that is, to prevent the defendant from deliberately blinding himself to the consequences of his tortious action, then Section B3 would be redundant because Section B2 already covers it. So the Struthious here didn't actually mean bad. It meant deliberately blinding yourself.
Yeah. Burying your head in the sand, trying to hide from the truth.
That is obnoxious.
You really have
Who
to
wrote
figure
this
that out.
opinion? Who wrote this? Yeah, I mean, it does mean pertaining to ostriches, and that is what they meant because they had just talked about deliberately blinding yourself to the consequences of your actions. And so they're saying that Section B2 already covers that Struthious conduct.
Yeah.
Section B2 already says you can't blind yourself to the consequences of your tortious action. Wow, that's really interesting. And that is very obnoxious. And the dictionary is going to be your friend always. Because what would you do in real life? You would look it up, right? You would have had to look this up and go, Struthious. Oh, ostriches. Oh, I get it. Okay. I understand.
Thanks for slowing down the comprehension of whatever point you're trying to make to me.
Yeah, thanks for not just writing clearly in your opinion. Thanks for getting all fancy. Well, we learned a new word. Anything more for the show? Thank you, Demon Team member Chris, for submitting that word of the week.
By the way, I put this into ChatGPT. I said, "Hey, who wrote this?" So it's coming from the DC Circuit. It doesn't say who wrote it, but it's funny. It thoughtfully thought, "Hey, I might need some help understanding this sentence." So it went on to tell me that comes from this DC Circuit's decision, but then it also tries to explain the sentence to me. And next to Struthious, it says ostrich-like. Like, let me help you out here.
Yeah.
Cool.
You can be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us. Suggest a word of the week. Submit your personal statement for the Personal Statement Gong Show. You can do all that stuff on our website, thinkinglsat.com. You can also find us on the socials at LSAT Demon. If you have questions about LSAT Demon, we have the world's best customer service team. They are available help@lsatdemon.com. Please check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. And hey, subscribe to this show. If you haven't already done that, you do us a big favor by just hitting subscribe. That was episode 502 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for law school.